boxing
news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Well, the viewing figures are in for Luis Ortiz's last outing against Flores. PBC on Fox main event peaks at 1,312,000 viewers. And these are very good numbers, and this would be very encouraging if this fight and its outcome weren't riddled in controversy. You see, the California Athletic Commission has decided to withhold Alexander Flores' $80,000 price because, well, let's be honest and let's just cut to the chase. It looks a lot like the guy took a dive.
1.3 million people saw it.
That was the least convincing knockout I've seen in recent memory, if I'm being honest. It looked a lot like Alexander Flores caught that left hook to the body on his arm. Looked a lot like he caught it on his elbow, if I'm being honest.
Looked like he took a fucking dive is what it looked like.
And the California Athletic Commission has so decided to withhold Alexander Flores' purse per a hearing where he will have to explain himself and what happened. Now, if you feel that Alexander Flores went in there and laid down on purpose, if you feel that this guy took a dive, there's one of two ways you can interpret that. One way, the more obvious way, is that Alexander was sent in there to make Luis Ortiz look good. They want people to view Luis Ortiz as still being formidable. They want to perpetuate this illusion that Luis Ortiz is a better fighter than what he actually is. So they have Flores go in there and lay down off the first hard shot that lands. The problem is the quote-unquote hard shot that landed looks like it landed on Alexander's arm, not his body. Might be asking yourself, why would they go to these lengths for this old man? Why would they pay Alexander Flores to lay down just to make Luis Ortiz look good? And it's because, well, they still have use of Ortiz. They still plan on using Luis Ortiz to build up Andy Ruiz. Did you forget those two guys are supposed to be fighting? This is supposed to be build-up for what is their fight. Look at who they've got Andy fighting. They've got Andy fighting the faded husk of Chris Arreola.
They're preserving the both of these guys.
These are safe opponent options, safe choices for either Luis Ortiz or Andy Ruiz. There really aren't that many risks involved when you're facing these kind of opponents. And the rhyme and the reason for these opponents is rather simple. Both of these guys were coming off of losses. You know, Luis Ortiz was coming off that knockout loss to Wilder in their rematch, and Andy Ruiz is coming off of a one-sided boxing lesson at the hands of Anthony Joshua. So a lighter touch is expected. But just how light should the touches be? I mean, what are you supposed to derive from these kinds of contests?
What do you think Luis Ortiz got out of that Flores fight?
The guy went down off what looked to be an elbow shot. 45 seconds into the first round. Luis Ortiz didn't even really get to shake off the cobwebs, shake off ring rust. You know, he didn't get to get his rounds in with this Flores guy. The Flores guy goes down almost immediately.
After a shot in the elbow?
No, it's the way Lennox said it was during the live broadcast. The floating rib shot. So one way you can interpret all of this is that Flores went in there and deliberately laid down. He took a dive so they could make Luis Ortiz look good because they're still trying to sell this guy. They need this guy to maintain a certain level of marketability. That's one way you can explain it. But yet another way you can explain it,
if you're playing devil's advocate,
is that Alexander was looking for a way out. He felt Luis Ortiz's power early on, and he just didn't want to be there. He was looking for an exit, and that's why he laid down. That the guy definitely took a dive. He decided to go down and stay down, but it's because he didn't want to be there. That's yet another way you can look at this, though I tend to lean towards the former rather than the latter. I think that they used this Flores guy to try and make Luis Ortiz look good because, for whatever reason, Luis Ortiz is still a part of their bottom line. I'm of the opinion that sometime in 2021, what the PBC might try to do is stage a pay-per-view between Luis Ortiz and Andy Ruiz. That's what I think is going on, and that's why I think Flores took that dive. They're trying to rebuild Luis Ortiz's boogeyman reputation, a reputation that only ever got off the ground because initially Deontay Wilder was perceived as not wanting that fight. Luis Ortiz is one of the better wins on Deontay Wilder's resume. One of the few, actually. But initially, there were people out there that thought Wilder didn't want that fight. Eventually, he changed all of their minds. He fought the man 2 times. But better still, that's where that reputation came from, because Luis Ortiz's body of work don't communicate boogeyman to anybody. This guy's been around a long time, and there are a lot of names that should be on his resume, but are not.
That reputation is dissipated.
He's really not viewed as a boogeyman by anyone anymore, and his claim to fame seems to be being knocked out by Deontay Wilder 2 times. That's it. If you ask me, what we saw this past weekend between Luis Ortiz and Alexander Flores was a deliberate attempt to try to keep Luis Ortiz marketable. Marketable enough that perhaps they can garner some interest for a pay-per-view in 2021 involving Luis and Andy. That's what I think is going on. They're pulling out all the stops to keep what heavyweights they have in their stable relevant, because they ain't got no world titles on that side of the street. Not anymore. Deontay Wilder lost the WBC to Tyson Fury, and he was their prized stallion in this division.
See what condition he's in these days.
Guys over there at the PBC have got to make do with what they've got, and this is what they've got in the heavyweight division. That's what I think this is. That's what I think we're looking at. A deliberate attempt to keep Luis Ortiz marketable. Moving on. Per a tweet from Michael Benson, Eddie Hearn on the WBC Bridgerweight division. Wouldn't it have been better off having it from light heavy to cruiser? No disrespect, but who wants to win the WBC Bridgerweight World Championship? You want the historic WBC Cruiserweight and World Championship, and I think that Eddie Hearn is quite right. In spite of whatever stipulations or provisions the WBC is trying to put in play as to what they classify as a Bridgerweight, in spite of all of that, those cruiserweights that have aspirations of moving up,
Those guys.
have aspirations of moving up to become heavyweight champions. Moreover, not just legacy, but finance. These guys want heavyweight paydays. They want Anthony Joshua paydays, Tyson Fury paydays, in some instances, Dillian White paydays. I mean, there is legacy involved in why cruiserweights decide to move up in weight. There is. There's legacy, there's necessity, but there's also finance. And right now, this Bridgerweight division is a ghost division. The WBC released their official rank standings for this Bridgerweight division, and there are no names there as of yet. And if I'm being honest, I don't imagine that there are going to be very many names there, because the fighters themselves and their teams have to make a conscious decision as to what weight classes they're campaigning in. And here today, there's no financial incentive for a fighter to campaign as a Bridgerweight champion. There's no names. Now, what I figure is that moving forward, the WBC is going to be in a hurry to put world titles, a world title, in the hands of someone, anyone, to get the ball rolling, to get the party started. And perhaps they will. Perhaps they can. Perhaps they can conjure up some obscure heavyweights that are out there, that are on the smaller end of the spectrum, the smaller, stumpier, stockier guys.
Those guys.
Perhaps they can get some of those guys to campaign at this weight. I mean, maybe. And perhaps even they can get someone to pick up their Bridgerweight world title. But the big names, the ones that come with financial incentives attached to them, your Anthony Joshuas, your Tyson Furys, your Dillian Whites, your Derek Chisoras, your Joseph Parkers, these kind of guys, they ain't got no fucking reason in the world to campaign as Bridgerweights. Now, there are some rumblings that what could be the very first Bridgerweight champion that has a recognizable name, what could end up being their inaugural WBC Bridgerweight champion, there are rumors that Deontay Wilder, having the thin frame that he has, that, yeah, he's a very statuesque heavyweight, long, rangy guy.
He's real tall.
But not a big-bodied guy. There are rumors that he might end up being the inaugural WBC Bridgerweight champion. But I think that that would be rather counterintuitive for Deontay Wilder. I mean, how do you go from being the heavyweight champion of the world to the Bridgerweight champion of the world? Is that a step forwards or a step backwards? Does Mauricio Suleiman have any idea how fucking stupid that shit sounds? Bridgerweight champion of the world. I'll tell you what I think, The truth is that this Bridgerweight division really is Deontay Wilder's best chance of picking up a WBC title of any kind. It's the truth. Tyson Fury is hell-bent on depriving him of a third fight, based on Deontay Wilder defaming his character publicly. Layman's terms, Tyson Fury doesn't want to deal with this guy anymore, and you can forget about the Anthony Joshua fight. Deontay Wilder's been cut out of that picture as well. So as far as world titles in the heavyweight division go, it doesn't seem like Wilder's on a path that would give him access to them. And this Bridgerweight division, this newly established division, might actually be his best bet at picking up a world title. But it really would only be the WBC title, at least for now, because I've heard no news of either the WBO, the WBA, or the IBF recognizing this Bridgerweight division. This division is exclusive to the WBC, as far as I know. Moreover, the kind of paydays you get at heavyweight, you won't find at Bridgerweight because the names aren't there. It goes back to my original point. The Joseph Parkers, the Anthony Joshuas, the Tyson Furies, the Derek Chisoras, the Dillian Whites, they don't campaign in this weight class. And without those kinds of names being there, for the other fighters out there, the more obscure ones looking to make names for themselves, without those names in this Bridgerweight division, there's no financial incentive for anyone to campaign at this weight.
No fucking money in this weight class.
And do you think guys like Murat Gassiev, guys like Alexander Usyk, cruiserweights who moved up to heavyweight, do you think they're going to abandon ship on their heavyweight campaigns to go down to Bridgerweight?
Is it even worth it?
You could argue that these fighters moved up for a personal sense of accomplishment. You can argue that both of these guys might actually be legacy fighters, and it is their legacies they're looking to add to. But make no mistake, this is prize fighting, and the prizes at heavyweight are prizes that you won't find at Bridgerweight. That's the only world title there, right now, the WBC title. The cruiserweight division has often been referred to as the forgotten weight class, the heavyweight division's less attractive little sister. So just imagine what kind of response this Bridgerweight division is going to get moving forward. And I'll tell you, without the cooperation of the other alphabet organizations and without the cooperation of the fighters themselves, this Bridgerweight division, it don't get off the ground. It don't. And that's what I'm hoping for. That nobody's stupid enough to entertain yet another one of the WBC's shenanigans. Because that's what this is. This is morbid. That Mauricio Suleiman thinks he can take it upon himself to redefine what a heavyweight is. It's criminal what this man is allowed to get away with in the sport of boxing, and it's got to stop at some point. And finally, per tweet from Michael Benson, Eddie Hearn on what's next for Philippe Hrgovich, Michael Hunter. That's the fight. I spoke with Kel Sorlin today. Hunter can't seem to get a break. No one really wants to fight Hrgovich because he's too dangerous, so Hrgovich versus Hunter. Let's go. It seems that Michael Hunter's departure from Matchroom will be a short-lived departure, as in all likelihood this is going to be his next fight as well, because both Michael Hunter and Philippe Hrgovich, those two guys are two of the dark horses of today's heavyweight division, and nobody seems to be in any hurry to do nothing with either of these two guys. In that situation, the logical thing for them to do is to go through each other to make a statement, since no one else is affording them the opportunity to do so. Michael Hunter sports wins over Martin Bacol, Sergey Kuzmin, Alexander Ustinov. In many ways, this is a proven guy. He drew with Alexander Povetkin, where Dillian White could not finish the fight with him. That is Michael Hunter's level. And I'm a little surprised that Top Rank didn't capitalize on this opportunity to sign Michael Hunter. Top Rank, who's been expanding on their heavyweight stable with Vianello and Takam and Agit Kabayel. You would have thought that they would have taken this opportunity to sign Michael Hunter, as he would have been a great addition to their heavyweight stable. I must admit that I am breathing a sigh of relief that he didn't end up on the PBC side of things, because his talents would have been squandered had he ended up there. There was some criticisms levied against Matchroom for letting Michael Hunter go. How do you let a guy as talented and as proven as Michael Hunter, how do you let that guy go but you sign Z Zhang? I mean, I got nothing against Z Zhang, but he doesn't exhibit the skill set, the ceiling that Michael Hunter does. I mean, Michael Hunter really is a dark horse in this division, and, you know,
They let him go.
I guess the logic was that the novelty of a Chinese heavyweight, a division where you don't see a lot of Chinese fighters, perhaps that could open new opportunities to break through a new demographic, a new market. The Chinese market, I mean, that's the way it was explained to me, and I can understand that hierarchy of thought. I can understand that logic as to why you would sign Z Zhang. Though, letting Michael Hunter go
I don't know, it just seems like a waste. I mean, perhaps it made sense at that time, based on what was going on at that time, but time has passed, things have changed, and I think there is room for Michael Hunter in Matchroom's stable of fighters. Their stable of heavyweights. I also want to say that, a fight between Michael Hunter and Philippe Hrgovich isn't just on the level of a Daniel Dubois versus Joe Joyce fight. It's actually a level above that when you consider who these two guys have fought. We talked about how Michael took on Sergey Kuzmin. We talked about how he took on Ustinov, how he took on Povetkin, how he took on Bacol. And Philippe Hrgovich, he's got the pedigree, he's got the amateur background, but as a professional, the most notariable names that he has fought are Eric Molina and Rydell Booker in his last fight. You see the quality of Philippe, the punch placement, the power, the size. He's got his virtues, we just don't know at what level he's competing with them until he gets that step up in competition, and in order for him to get it, well, somebody's got to step up. Is Michael Hunter willing to step up to this challenge? I dare say yes, because, if I'm being honest, beggars can't be choosy, and in this situation, Michael don't got a lot of options. There's just not a lot of guys out there willing to take a chance on him, so I think he needs to jump all over this and see about making a statement against Philippe Hrgovich. Taking that guy's O would really be saying something. He took both Martin Bacol and Sergey Kuzmin's O's, and perhaps he can take Philippe Hrgovich's as well.